Hey, how's it going, awesome friends? Today I'm going to be doing a 3 completely random image composite, and I had my wife Stephanie pick these out of a folder with lots and lots of images and told her to pick 3 photos that she thought maybe would go together. And the 3 images I end up, these 3, are all from 3 different cameras. One of them's from a phone. So I am going to be working with a diverse set of photos to get a final image which looks like this. And I just got to tell you that this was a 2-hour tutorial and I somehow managed to get it down. I shaved it and shaved it and shaved it until it was 24 minutes. So after I get done talking, until you hear me, until you see my face again, that's 24 minutes. And I'm sorry that it's so long, but there's a lot involved with this. This is a more advanced Photoshop tutorial, so there's a lot to it. There's a lot in cutting things out, blending things together, using a LUT for color, using a gradient map to tie things together, a whole lot of cutting out, pasting, cloning. This has pretty much the works, anything you would want in a Photoshop tutorial. So check this out. So here's the 3 images starting with this. I like this. There's a possibility I can use a sand somewhere, but I'm probably going to cut it here, right at the water line. Then we got this. That's one of my photos of Middle Creek. I don't really particularly like the power lines, so I'm probably going to cut that here. And I'm thinking about leaving the bank here. It all depends what it looks like with the trees cut off here. Maybe I can clone stamp that in. And then this, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with this yet. So I'm going to start with what we will call the background. I'm going to put these together first and then try to make the colors work together, since these are all 3 not raw. 2 of them are JPEG. This was actually taken with my iPhone. So we'll see how that works out. It's not like this has to be a huge image. And this is a TIFF file, but it's already got processing applied, and there's processing applied to this. This is a JPEG, but that doesn't matter too much. I was actually more worried about the image quality of this one, but that might end up being in the background. So I'm going to start with a new file, and even though it's probably going to stretch it, I'm going to make it 6500 by 4500. Okay, now I got this PSD file. I'm going to copy this first, and I'm going to constrain the proportions just in case I end up using that sun. Maybe I won't. It depends. It all depends. There's a possibility that I might have to shrink this upward, which is as soon as I saw it, I realized how it's going to fit in here. I realized that I might just forget about the sun. So now I'll copy this layer into it, because this will be on top of this. And this, I don't care about the top. I just want to make sure it makes the width. And for now, I'm going to leave this Playhouse image alone and just save this. Instead of making a mask, I'm just going to use my lasso tool with a feather of 5 pixels. I'm going to draw along this. I just have to be really careful. Since I'm not doing a mask, I would just rather do it this way for now. And I'm just going to delete these sections at a time. Okay, now I'm just going to delete this entire section here. Get that out of my way. And start working with the sky. I'm not real concerned with the edge right now. I'm more concerned with the direction I'm taking this. And I don't fully know that yet. So I'm not too concerned with this edge right now. It looks decent. I got a lot of filling in to do, some clone stamping, and some dodge and burning, I'm sure. But I'm more concerned with how these 2 images fit together right now. And I'm going to see what happens if I just pull this up. And I would like to have that purple there, so I'm going to copy it. I really like that purple. Put it on a different layer. Get rid of that for now. Pull this up where I need it. Put that sun there. I'm going to take this that I stole from the top. I'll stretch that out a little bit just to make sure it fits. Even though I shouldn't be making this bigger because it's pixelated slightly, I'm going to. And then I'm going to take my eraser tool, size brush, get rid of the edge. And then I use a much larger brush and blend it a little bit. I'm going to go to the camera raw filter, try to match that a little bit better. First, I'm going to mess with the temperature. And maybe I'll cool it down. I'm going to pull the highlights up, shadows up, and then I'm going to pull the blacks down just to make this a little darker. Try to match the amount of daylight we have here. Now, because that's way oversaturated, I'm just going to pull the saturation itself down all the way and then bring it back up until it makes sense to me. So now seeing them together, you can see what I'm attempting to do here. I think I'm going to do away with these buildings. So first I'm going to clone those out. That's doable there. And I think for starters, I'm going to move my lasso tool down to 2 pixels and copy some of this. See how far I can stretch this here. Now, something I like to do when I cut something out like this is, you see all these way too smooth edges, and I like to go in at like 1 or 0 pixels. I'm going to start with 1 and make all these jaggy edges to make it less obvious. And I zoom in pretty far for that. It's one time where it's really nice to have a digital tablet. Just going to do a small section and delete it. Zoom back out and see how that looks. I got to do a lot more fine than that, so just going to start again. I'll go to the other side while it's still fresh. This is a good time to just kind of cut out some little things that you may have missed, or some little things that were harder to clone out. If you can dip down in far enough, you can just make kind of your own peaks and valleys, which is what's really nice about this technique. You can just kind of make your own rules up here. Looks like just like rough terrain. This side ended up looking a lot nicer than this side. And right now I'm thinking, instead of centering the little playhouse, I might put it off to the side here, mainly because of 2 reasons here. I'll get to see the sun, and I'll probably enhance that even more and bring some rays out here, and that'll help cover up some of the reflections of trees that aren't actually there anymore. So I cut off the trees. Here, you don't really notice it, and over here, you see a ton of trees, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, before I cut this out, I'm going to put a bright color underneath it, because that makes it easier for me to see the edges, and I'm going to bring it into the camera raw filter, and when I do that, I'm just going to get the look I want before I plop it down on the composite. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bump the clarity up a little bit just to bring out the wood grain a little more. I'm going to go into the color settings and desaturate that green. Just with the contrast a little bit, pull it down, and then use the blacks to bring it a little bit more back in. And this is like, it's not a very technical thing. It's more of an artistic choice here. I just want it to be a little more muted and the wood just a little less red. So first I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool just to cut the majority of this out. I decided to cut the swing set and the slide out, and that's going to create some more work for me, but I want to see it standing alone without the slide. And I'm just going to hopefully copy some of this wood from here and put it over here and make it work. So now what I'm going to do is copy wood from here and just keep working with it until I have that area covered. And this is a pretty small amount. The main thing here is trying to make the angle work, so I'm going to skew this so I get the right angle here. And then copy that, changing the angle until it's right. I'm going to select these parts and clone that in. So now you can see exactly what I'm going for here. And this is a very time-consuming process. So I'm going to skip ahead in the video. I'm going to cut all these spots out here, and then I'm going to skip ahead to pasting this into the composite image. Okay, now I cut out all these. Meticulously picky about it too, because I want that sky showing through on all these little holes here. So I made sure I cut every last one out and didn't do it lazily. Like, I left all the support beams from behind the playhouse. I left them there. I left the ladder here. So here we go. And I think I'll shrink it a little bit. Maybe widen it a little bit. Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is this bottom here. Before I start matching colors and putting in shadows and stuff like that, I'm going to do probably quite a bit of dodging and burning on the playhouse itself. Kind of make it look a little more grungy than it is. It's a little too clean for me, what I have in mind for this. So I'm going to start here and start erasing this a little bit. But this time I'm actually going to use a mask so I don't have to undo stuff. Now that was just getting rid of all the excess that I put in, that I left there. Now I'm going to zoom way in. And I'm working with a soft brush, but this time I'm going to be really small and delicate about it here, because I want the water to appear as if it's covering part of the playhouse. And that looks pretty good. The key here is zooming way in and using a small brush on top of that. And then by the time you zoom out to how someone's actually going to view it, the softness really isn't an issue. Because I like to use a soft brush for pretty much everything. First, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to darken this a little more now that I see how it is. And because this would technically be a little bit darker, I am going to desaturate it ever so slightly, because the darker it is, the less color you actually see. Although I do have some vibrant colors going on here, so maybe gotta be real careful with this. That kind of works a little better for me, so I'm going to leave it like that. So what I'm going to do now to just help me visually here, even if it's temporary and I change it out, I'm going to add an adjustment layer that's a LUT and adjust it a little bit. I'm going to use my own LUT here from the Wonderscape LUT pack. Dihedral is one of my favorites, so I'll try that. And that's really dark, by default, so I'm going to back off a little bit. And then I'm also going to do a gradient map, and that'll be in soft light. So you can see what's going on here. It's starting to tie itself together because I'm altering all the colors together. And you can see I'm going to start a folder here, little group, so I can turn that on and off. And you can see kind of looks generic. Everything's thrown together. And then you put a little color into it, tie it together a little better, and everything starts to work well. Now what I'm going to do is dodge and burn this. Just going to start out with a bigger brush and burn the end of this because this will be the darkest spot. And I'm just going to go over that. I'm going to use a smaller brush, go along these edges. Anything that's light on this side should be darkened, like right here, this area. All right, I'm going to stop burning there, and the rest of it's all going to be dodging. And this is adding to the overall grungy appearance. And I see a problem here. I'm going to create a separate layer for that and use a black paintbrush and just kind of go over that a little bit to darken it all. And I'm doing it this way so I can alter the opacity. When I do this, I usually blur it. So I'm going to go to Gaussian blur. And you can see what that's doing there. Now, since that's obviously too dark, I'm going to see what happens if I use soft light. And no, that doesn't work. So I'm going to leave it on normal and just pull down the opacity and darken that roof a little bit because I don't want to draw attention to this because the light's actually coming from down here and we got light on top of the roof. So I don't really want it up there. This can be tedious. This can be quite tedious. Now, I'm going to apply this by combining these here together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another layer with a black paintbrush and go along the bottom here and just create a little bit of shadowing here. Blur it again. And you can see what I did there. It's starting to really look like it's sunken in there. And I'm going to pull down the opacity a little bit again. On, off. You can see it's really starting to blend itself into there. Now I'm going to create another layer, another black brush layer. Only this time it's a nice big brush. I'm going to start painting in sort of a vignette to make this, to really kind of sell this, make it a little more believable because there would be a lot of shadowing behind this. Soft like that. You can see what happened there. Got a nice, it looks like the light's actually coming from there onto the playhouse. And then I pull that down to 0 and bring it back up until it makes more sense. And the nice thing is, because I use soft light, you can still see all these little screws and they're really starting to pop actually. This is actually starting to work well together, which is nice because I was actually starting to get a little worried, but this is starting to work. And I'm going to attempt to make a reflection here, but ever so slight reflection. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go down here and just use distort. And I'm going to move it first and pull it down so it's kind of the inverse. This is going to look pretty ugly at first. Okay, now I'm just going to use an eraser and erase what I really don't want here. Doesn't have to be exact here. I kind of want to just fade it out. But first, I'm going to save and go into liquify. Now I'm just going to use a slightly small brush and just kind of pull this around. Make it a little warbly. And I'm going to try to do this as randomly as possible because the water is random. And then I'm going to just pull down the opacity, 0, bring it up until I just see it a little bit. Okay, I like hard light. The gradient map really helps tie things together. You could actually use the gradient map all by itself, but I just like using a lookup table because it does more to the color, the actual color. It completely changes the overall look. I'm going to put another layer, yet another layer, and this is going to involve some color. This color, maybe a little bit lighter. And I'm going to drag my brush way down to 10%. Start small. Click on the sun, go up one level, and just keep building that circle. And this is like the final touches here of really tying all three of these photos together, where you're actually painting on all three at the same time. And this is literally never the same. I never have like a specific mode that I'm blending with. I keep going, shuffling through them until it works. The only thing I don't like is how it colored that. So maybe I'll pull the opacity down. And actually, I'm going to go to normal and see if I can just use normal, if I can get away with that. Maybe it won't color it so much. I actually like how bright that is. So probably going to put another layer of something similar, but maybe closer to white. So I'm going to put this back to soft light, pull it down to 0, bump it up just a tad, maybe 50%. And we're going to do this again with almost white. Do the same thing, same exact thing. Let Photoshop catch up. So this, I'm going to overlay and soft light. Yeah, definitely not overlay. Pull it down all the way and pull it back up. And this is building here. This is, I'm actually going to put these in this group. Generic looking thing. It's really, the more I do to it, the more it looks horrible when I turn it off. And that means I'm actually doing what I want to here. I'm making progress. So, okay, now a new layer of black. I'm just going to use the paint bucket tool there. Pull down the opacity. Find the sun. And make the tiniest white dot right where the sun is as a marker. Now put my opacity all the way up. That's my little mark. I'm going to go to filter, render, lens flare. And I find my little white dot. See my little white dot there? And I put it right on it. If that doesn't work, put it off to the side. I think I'm just going to move it after the fact here. Then you hit screen mode, and all of a sudden you got this amazing overbearing kind of lens flare. And I'm going to move that just to see what it looks like if I put it right here. And I like that a lot more. So what I'm going to have to do is erase around this. And I can do that because it's going to be a lot less than what you're seeing here. I just want to get rid of that hard edge right now. And then use a much bigger brush to kind of fade it a little bit. Now, pull the opacity down to 0. That's what I always do, just all the way up, all the way down, and then find a happy medium. And I'm going to see what happens if I actually just put this underneath my group. And you can see it kind of muted it a lot more and actually helped it work a little better. Let's zoom out, do a little bit of a reality check here. I see what happened here. I didn't actually put it below. Very important that it's not actually in there. So now I'll pull it back down again. I think that's it. I'm going to stop the video here because for now, I think that looks pretty good. but realistically, I can't leave things alone, and I'll probably go back in and mess with it even more. That is doing a composite with 3 random images. And I suggest you just get a giant folder of random photos that you like, even if you really think that they will work well together. By the time you get up to like 50 images and you let someone else pick it for you, it's going to be a struggle. So it's a struggle, and it's a learning tool that I've always used for myself, but I always pick them out myself. So I was more biased. Try this out, see if you like it. This was a lot of fun for me. If anything, I think I'm gonna blend this in so it's not so sharp. I'm gonna blur it a little bit, just so slightly, and that'll probably be it. That's probably what you'll see in the thumbnail. But otherwise, I'm liking that pretty much. I really like it. So that was a lot. That was a lot to take in. I don't blame you if you skipped through some of it, because I had to watch this over and over and over again to edit it. So there was a lot of editing, more than most of the videos in the past year that I've put out. There was a lot of cuts and splicing and a lot of decisions made. First, second, third, fourth passes, trying to get everything to make sense and shrink it down from 2 hours to 24 minutes. And my main goal was actually 15 minutes, but there was no way I could cut out more to make it 15 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed this. I have plans on getting someone else to pick random photos. So any of my YouTube or Instagram friends, just send me 3 images and let me know what they're for. Just send me 3 images and I will try to composite them together in a video. This was a big challenge for me, and even though it was a big challenge, there were still images that I know that I took. So I would like just 3 random things thrown at me. Just keep it at 3, and I'll try to put them together. And if I can figure it out, I'll make a video and credit you for the images and credit you for the idea and send you the file when I'm done. So remember, create, share, repeat, and keep it awesome. Please subscribe and tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.